What is your name?
My name is Carrie Crowley.
Where are you from?
I am from Pleasant Ridge, Michigan.
How old were you on September 11th, 2001?
I was 26 years old.
Where were you on September 11th, 2001 when we were attacked?
On 9/11, I was working at GM Creative Services in Wixom, Michigan, and I believe I was sitting at my desk.
Did you ever visit the World Trade Center in New York City before September 2001?
Yes, I visited the World Trade Center at least 2 times before 9/11.
What do you remember?
I guess I remember flying into New York and seeing the Twin Towers and the skyline, and it kind of representing what I thought of New York City. They were very iconic buildings, and I knew that thousands and thousands of people worked there.
How did you find out about the attacks?
I was sitting at my desk, and one of my colleagues kind of shouted over the cubicle wall that America was under attack and that a plane had flown into one of the World Trade Center buildings. I remember immediately we all gathered around a TV set in one of the conference rooms and being kind of numb and frozen at what we saw on the TV screen.
What were your first feelings or emotions when you heard about the attacks?
When I first heard about the attacks on 9/11, as I just stated, it was almost like your heart sank and you were just kind of numb inside. And, I've never been through a real war, and just thinking that it was amazing to me that our country was under attack. And at the time, we had no idea who was attacking us. We didn't know if it was an accident and a plane had just accidentally flown into the building. But then I guess by the time we saw the second plane fly into the second building, we knew that this obviously was an act of terrorism. And there was just a lot of questions, but overall I think that it was just kind of a time of silence and numbness and not knowing exactly what to do, just being afraid.
What is your most vivid memory of that day?
I have several vivid memories from 9/11. First of all, obviously the planes hitting the World Trade Center were one vivid memory. Another vivid memory was the people jumping to their death from high up floors in the building. Memories of the firefighters going through the rubble. Memory of the families hanging posters looking for their loved ones, not knowing at the time if they were in the hospital, if they were dead, if they were trapped under rubble. I remember coming home and there just being a general silence. At the time we lived in Berkeley, and there was a general silence amongst the neighborhood. People really just were glued to their TV sets trying to figure out how many people had lost their lives, who had attacked us. I mean, there were a lot of questions going through people's minds. I remember George Bush being told that we were under attack and kind of having a real look on his face of fear, like I thought he probably should have had as a president. But I guess in retrospect, he reacted the way he probably should have. He didn't look afraid, but he finished reading the books to the children and, immediately dealt with the situation at hand afterward. That's pretty much the way that I remember 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Were you personally connected to anyone in the towers, Pentagon, or planes?
Yes, my Uncle Rich was a financial advisor and worked in 9/11, or worked in one of the World Trade Center's buildings. And at the time, it didn't hit me that he worked there, but my mom immediately called me, and she was panicked because she couldn't get a hold of him. And she had called his wife, and his wife said that he was on the train into the city because at the time they lived outside Manhattan and he commuted into the city. Luckily, probably about 4 hours later, we found out that he was in commute during the attack and his train had been stopped, so he had never actually made it to the island. And he was, oddly enough, he usually gets there at 6 o'clock in the morning, but that day, for whatever reason, he was running late and arrived late and did a conference call from the train, so it was kind of a miracle that he was okay.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to the World Trade Center site after the attacks? What do you remember?
I did. I visited the World Trade Center site a couple times. The first time probably a month and a half after the attack on 9/11. And at the time, it was just fencing with people's personal paraphernalia, hung everything from jackets to computer parts to kids' socks to notebooks to cards that loved ones had made for their missing relatives, to signs looking for certain people. It was one of the saddest things I think I've ever experienced, is seeing the wall of people's memorabilia surrounding the site. The site itself, to me, just looked like a vast space of, at the time, kind of just dirt and holes because they were digging, and it was pretty much just garbage and rubble. I remember that being very powerful, both from the air flying into the city, because it looked like a missing hole in the city, a giant void. And at the ground level, it was just amazing to me that in the middle of this condensed city where there's a building and pavement every square foot, that you would have this giant hole of nothing. It was definitely a powerful void in the city.
Has 9/11 changed you, and how so?
9/11 has changed me. I'd like to think that it probably has changed most Americans who lived through it. As someone who grew up in the 90s, I never really experienced Gulf War, but it was at the time kind of a TV war, and I guess didn't really impact me because it wasn't on our homeland. 9/11, I think, was powerful because it was the first time our country had been under attack. And again, at the time, we had no idea who was attacking us and why they were attacking us. So yeah, that will permanently be probably burned into my brain forever. I think that it's changed the way that we react to internal terrorism, to external hate groups, whether it's religious groups, whether it's political groups. I think that it's changed the way we view each other, the way we view certain nationalities. So I'm changed forever.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time to share.
You're welcome. Thank you.